Hi and welcome to the video. In this video we'll be creating a form looking like this one right up here. We'll be creating it using Formik in React. We will deploy it onto Netlify, making use of a Netlify form to actually submit this form, which will be the main focus on this video, actually making the form function. And then in the next video we'll be focusing a little bit more on styling it exactly like this one right up here. But anyways, we will still implement Tailwindcss in this video and style it a little bit. And so without any further ado, let's jump right into our console. So we'll have to create a React app. And to do that, we would jump into our directory, which we want to create it in. So I have a directory inside, let's see. Let's cd into your directory and I'll cd into mine. So I have mine in websites. Then I have one called YouTube websites. And then at last I'll cd into React. So this is just a folder or directory, what you want to call it is up to you. So in here I'll create my React app, and so hopefully you are in your folder as well. If not, you might just want to do it later or something like that. Of course, just watch the video if that's what you're into. So let's create it using npx, not npm. We'll be using that later. So npx create React. Oh, React app. Let's call this YT form, and we can't actually use capital letters even though I wanted to make this some camel case convention. But anyways, so YT form, and now our React app will be creating. Okay, so what is going on right here? So npx create React app. Non-directory, okay. Alright, so I see the problem right here. We actually typed it, or I should say I typed it in wrong. So it's create React app and then YT form. Now it will install for us. Of course, when we are programming and doing all this sort of stuff, maybe I'm not the only one that's typing wrong. So yeah, I hope that's not me, that's the only one. So anyways, let's wait for this to be done, and we can go ahead and install the other packages like Formik and Tailwindcss when this is done. Alright, so now we're done installing, and let's just close out of the terminal. Let's jump right into Visual Studio. And now, so you've probably created yours in a separate folder to mine, but I will just open my websites, YouTube websites, React, and YT form. So this should open the React app, which I've just created, and you can open yours. Alright, so once you have opened yours, you would go into View and do Console. Then we are able to actually type into the console as we were before when we were in this directory. So we could also just cd into it right here, but I personally prefer to do it in the console in Visual Studio. It just makes it a lot easier to just go from actually coding to maybe installing some packages or something like that. So let's do npm Formik. We need to do I for install, or just install, do Formik, and we need to do -save so that it will automatically save it into our package.json. And you see it did it actually just, let me see, I saw something move. Maybe it was just me. Yeah, but anyways, it will do this shortly. So now it's installed. And let's also now go to the Tailwind documentation for installing it on a Create React app, because it's actually a little bit more complicated than just installing it using npm like we did with Formik, because we need to bypass some post CSS thing and install other libraries. So once you're into this page, which I'll link down below in the description, you could go down under here to setting up Tailwindcss, and there is this long line which you need to copy. And now I have copied it, and I'll paste it right here, as you should. And then I'll press right here, I'll press space and do -save. And I'll press enter, of course, and it will install for me. So now while that's installing, let's go further down this page. Let's just copy this for this cracker, which we need to bypass this post CSS configuration. So, right, now let's see if this is installed. It is. Let's paste this, and let's do -save, just to make sure. Maybe it's saving it anyways, and I'm just not seeing it, but I do it just to be safe. So once we have installed this, and we can actually just start doing it now. Oh yeah, that's installed. We'll need to replace these 3 lines, as they say right here. So we need to do Krago, start, build, and test. Let's do that instead of React scripts. All right. So let's just replace these 3 lines with it. All right. So Krago, and let's see. Krago. And you don't want to do it with eject, then you'll probably get some error at some time. All right, so now that's done, we can go further down this, and we need to create a file at the root of the directory called krago.config.js. So let's just copy this and let's create the file. So just press where there is in the folder, so you go into the root and you will create this file. So call this krago.config.js and make sure you spell it correctly. That might have caused some problem for me if I had did that again, like I did with create React app. And let's just go in here and let's paste it. So this is all we need for this folder. Now let's continue, and we need to create a config file for Tailwind, and Tailwind does that for us when we type npx tailwindcss init, like so. And now we can go down here and paste this. Oh, actually not paste this because we've already got it. We just need to copy this line just from this green part right here. So just copy this and put it into purge. In the purge array, in this file which we have just gotten by typing tailwind init, and let's paste it into this array. So like this. And that's it for this config file. Now we can go over to our CSS, our actual index.css, which Create React app has already gotten installed for us, or made for us. Yeah. So let's go into our source folder. Let's navigate to our index.css. Let's replace everything with just these 3 lines, which you will copy from this documentations page. And you see we need to import it, but it has already done that for us since we already have this file. You can look in the index.css and see that's right there. What we now need to do is actually get rid of app.css, because we don't need that anymore since we're just starting everything from Tailwind. So let's just right click on that and do delete, move to trash. Let's go up here, just move these 2 imports. So the one import was for the CSS, the app.css, which we don't need, and the second for the logo, which we won't need either. So get rid of everything in this header section, including the header, and let's just try and run this thing and see if it's working. So we might not see anything on the page because we have just gotten rid of all the contents, but we'll just run it, and let's change the background color using Tailwind, to see if it's all running all right. So let's do npm start, and you see it's Krakow start now because we have used that instead of the React scripts. So it should just start up in your local host at port 3000 unless you have changed that. And let's see, yeah, so just a blank page, but it's working. There is no errors as of right now, and yeah, so we can just continue. I'll just use this this link inside my browser Firefox, just because I'll be creating a form and I would like to not publish my email addresses. Alright, so let's go ahead and close out of this. Now we can change the background color to something green. So BG green, and I'll do 100 for the lightest shade that I can. So it looks something like this color right here. And then we'll put this color right here in our other component. So yeah, let's just close out of this one. And let's go over here. Of course, there won't be any color right now because we need to add a width and a height. So the width will be equal to the screen, and so will the height. Alright, so now we can see that it's working. We have Tailwind installed and working just fine. And we'll just now go over to the source, and we'll create a folder. We'll create a components folder, and inside there we will create our actual contact form. So type in components. Of course, later we would have more components. Actually, in the next video, we'll be creating another component for the other side of the actual form. So we have this form page with the form on one of the sides, and then we have something about or some other section. So yeah, create this folder, components. Inside it, we'll create a component called something like contact form.js, of course, since we want to actually write some React. And yeah, so I have this plugin installed, and I think you should too, called ES7, and something like yeah, I'm not gonna name all this React Redux, blah blah blah. And remember that it's by this author or creator, and yeah, just look for this, just search up here, and you know the audio. So anyways, let's go back in here, and that plugin enables us to type RFC or IFCE, whatever you prefer. I just prefer to type RFC, it's shorter. So this will export the default function of what we named this this file, which is contact form, and we can then easily import it over to our app.js. So yeah, RFC would do the same thing. It would just be an export default right here on the bottom. So yeah, we don't need that. We can just go ahead and start importing some stuff right up here. So for this to work, we will need to import Formik hooks, which they provide as following. So the first Formik hook we would need would be Formik, very simply, and then we'd need form, we need field, and we need one last one, which is called error message, like so. And then of course we have an error because we need to provide where it's from, and it's from Formik. So now we haven't used any of these, so maybe later they will come up down here and say we have some unused hooks or something like that. So inside of here, we'll just start by creating a header, or not a header, but a h1 tag. So this will be the title of the form, which is contact, not contact, of course, contact. All right, so let's just do a little bit of Tailwind. So let's do class name and type it correctly, of course. Let's do text, and let's make it triple XL. Let's do font bold, or bolder maybe, so it's even bolder. And let's just keep this at that. and let's refresh. We should, of course, we are not seeing it, and let's just import it before we forget it. So let's import, import, and we will import the contact form from, of course, the current working directory, which we are in the source, to the components folder, and then after that to our actual file called contact form. And I'm just tapping tab for this to go a little quicker. So let's see if, of course, we're not seeing it yet, and we need to actually type it in here. So let's do contact form. Let's close this tag, and now we should see it like this. All right, so now it's working, and we can fill out the rest to actually make the form. As you see, it actually says it defined right here, but it's never used. So we will be using these things, so they won't give us a warning. Yeah, I was about to say an error, because it's sort of an error, but it's actually just a warning. It won't cause any real problems for now. So let's create, let's do form, no, let's do Formik. And we will be closing this tag, and we will be typing form, and inside of here we can actually type our actual fields. So I like to start by typing a title, or a label in this case, since it's a form element. So let's do that. So let's do opening tag and do label. Let's close this, and let's type in name, not our name, of course, and name like so. And then down under here we will be using this field hook, and we'll be using that like so. Field, and let's close this, and inside of here we will need to pass in a few values. So you see it's actually already over here, and why is there, all right. Yeah, so it's actually already over there, but we need to pass in something for Formik to actually notice what we are trying to do with this field. So we are trying to make it a name field, so we need to make the type of text. So this is actually just a text field. The name, the email field will actually be of type email. So and then we would use something else for the message field, namely the text area. But anyways, let's make this first. So ID will be equal to name as well. The name will be equal to name, and we forgot to close this. I forgot to close this. Alright, so the name will be equal to name. And we'll also want to have a placeholder, or I like to have a placeholder at least. You do what you prefer. Alright, so inside the placeholder I will type name right there, and I'll also add a class, like so, and I'll do some padding right, no, padding left, that's PL, and I'll type in 4. So what that actually did, I will type in 2. So what that actually did is make it so that the placeholder text right here is a little bit, it has a little bit of padding right here on the left, so that when you click the field, you actually are able to see this blinking line, so that you know that you can type in this field. And of course, when you actually type, it will show an error. So let's fix that, and let's do so like that. All right, so before we fix that, we will create the last thing that we need to create right here, which is the error message, which is also the last thing that we haven't used yet. So let's do that. the error message, and this will also just close. And we will only need for this video to type in one thing right here, and that is the name for it to actually just work. So that will be name for this field. And let's just wrap this in a div so we don't have to do it later. We'll want to wrap it in a div later, so it won't really matter. Let's do it like that. Now let's see if we need anything. All right, so to start off, we could create a class name right up here. Class name, and we'll set this to the flex. And we'll of course do it in a column direction, so flex and call for column. And let's see, so now this is on their separate line. And now what else? Let's do text will be, let's do text and do green of like 100, like we did with the background. No, of course that won't work. Let's do it with like 200, and let's like change the background color up here. So we have this div tag. Let's do class name. Keep typing capital A after here. All right. Let's do class name. Let's do the width of half of the screen. So we do that like so. Let's make the height be equal to the screen. And let's make the background color equal to green of 300. And let's see how this looks. So now we can change. And why does this fill the whole screen? That's because I forgot to do it like that. So width of half the screen. All right. And let's see, let's change this to 100 now. So there's some more contrast there. I don't think, maybe it's not enough, but we'll make it larger, so it will probably help a little bit with the contrast. But anyways, that's also for the next video, but I'll still be creating a little bit. So we'd also want to add some padding to make it a little bit responsive. So we just need to type px, and let's add like 12. And so this looks fine. We just need to display flex and center it. So flex, and let's do again flex column. So that's flex call, and let's do justify, and do center. All right, so now it should be right here in the center. Let's in here, let's create a class, or maybe we can just do it right up here. Align. No, this actually doesn't work. Let's do something like text. Let's do that right here. So let's do text center. All right, so now this will be centered, and we will add like a background color to that correctly. Let's do, so we had that right up here. Yeah, so text center bg, let's do green of, let's do 700. Yeah, that looks great. And let's do rounded, and let's make this actually, yeah, rounded. Should be made rounded. Yeah. Yeah, rounded. So it's just a little bit rounded. And let's do py to make on the y-axis a little bit of padding. So py, let's do 4. All right, and let's do margin bottom, and just set this to like 8. All right, and so under here we'll create a submit button. So let's do that by typing button, or opening tag first, button, and let's close it. Let's in here type in submit, and let's do this of type submit as well. So Formik will know that this is the button to actually submit the form. So let's type submit. All right. So now we'll be creating a little bit of classes right here. Oh, let's do that. And let's jump right up here. All right, let's do the background color BG of green 700. I could have just copied that right up on top, but I wouldn't, because I can just type it right here. Rounded. So rounded, and let's actually make this rounded full. And let's just see. We can do some sort of thing like text sender, and text sender won't actually do anything right now, but when I do something like this, let's see over here, maybe I can do it on this. I'll try. All right, so that doesn't work. I'll have to do this right up here. So I'll just type in class name, and I'll set it to let's do flex, and do flex dash flex dash col. All right, so now this actually spans out across the whole width that we have, and of course there is some padding right here. So this actual box right here that covers half of the screen has some padding, and this will be a little responsive. So yeah, and we will also be creating some padding on this button, and we'll be doing that by typing py as we did on top. And let's give it maybe that's too much for this. Let's do actual 3. All right, so that's okay. Let's do text. Let's set this to LG, and let's set it to Excel. Oh, Excel. All right, so for now that's fine. Let's just create some margin top of 8. And let's get working on the rest of the form. So let's do that. Let's just say we have this div right here, and let's copy that. Let's create some space for us right here so that it won't get so cluttered. Let's paste it in a few times. So we paste it in right here, and let's paste it in one more time. So right here. All right, so now we have these 3 fields which we want, as we did in our design right here. I won't open it. If I open it, it would take a little bit of time. So let's just type in on these fields message. Oh, this will be email. All right, let's type in email address. Let's do it a little bit fancy. All right, so in here, let's just copy this, and let's put it into the placeholder. And now let's press Alt or hold Alt down, and then just mark all the way all the places where it says name, and let's just delete that. Type in email. Now that we have that done, I think, yeah, that was all. So in here we won't need to do type. We'll do as, and we'll do as text field, or a text area. So like this, this is actually exactly how we do it. So we see we can actually resize this right now, and we can not type in it yet. We haven't fixed that yet, but we will very soon. So let's use message right here. Message, let's copy this to the placeholder, and as we did before, let's press all the places where it says name while holding down Alt. All right, was it only these 3 places? I think so. So let's type in message, like so. All right, so I think that is it. Let's actually add some let's actually do this every place right here. So what will we do? We will press down Alt and then go right here and right here. So let's add margin top. And actually, let's not do this on the top one because it already has the margin top, but I'll delete it afterwards. So margin top of 4. Yeah, this is fine. I'll just delete this right here. All right. So now that we have our form looking like somewhat pleasant, not so bad, we can actually make it function, and then focus on in the next video actually making it look better. So let's do that. All right, so we need to type in some functions and an object into Formik and to make it work. So first up, we type in initial values, and let's just create a constant for the initial values. So we type in initial values using camel case convention, and let's make this equal to this array where we will be typing in the names or the IDs of the fields we have. Initial values, yeah, it's created but never used. Okay, so let's type in name. We had a name field. Let's separate or let's make this equal to an empty string. And now we'll type an email. Again, create make it equal to an empty string, and let's type in message and do the same. All right, so you could actually also just make this equal to an actual value, but oftentimes you won't want that. So I could type in Adrian, which is my name, and over here, all right, of course it wouldn't work right now, but if I had connected it to Formik, it would actually type in my name. So yeah, oftentimes you just won't want to have an actual value typed in first. You would want the user to type it in. All right, so we need to create a function, and let's do that with const as well. So let's do const, and let's call this validate. So validate, and let's make it have a prop called values. We needed to have this prop called values for Formik to function, and let's start this function using the arrow. This why don't I remember what that's called? That's called the arrow. What is that called? All right, let's create this arrow function. Now I got it. I just had to think for a second. You know, it's pretty late up here. All right, so now we have done that. Let's actually type in what we need to have in this validate. So we need to have an error. So let's create an error object or an error subject, and let's make it like so. And then under here we want to validate, but before we forget it, we of course need to return it so that it is not outside the scope of our general function right here, or what we are returning right here, which is our form. So we don't want to just have it in the scope of this function. So let's do return errors. All right, and now let's actually create some logic. Let's do if not, and this is if we don't receive val, and this is how you type it, values dot name. So this is the prop which we have received, which is basically just this array, and so we are saying if the value, and these are the values of the array dot name is not there, which is our name field right here. So if this is not filled out, then we'll get an error, or we'll push an error to the object errors. All right, so where were we? We were right here. All right, so let's actually, all right, let's close this curly brace, and inside of here we will do errors dot name is equal to, and we will type in here whatever we want the user to see once this error occurs. So I'll just type in please, and let me see, please type your name. All right, so please type in your name, or please type your name, whatever. Let's also do this for the email. I won't do it for, oh, okay. I won't do it for the message, just because, I mean, you could do it if you want, but I don't think that a message always is important to receive. So I'll just leave that empty. So email, let's just copy this, paste this in right here. Please type your email. And we'd also want one more thing for the email, which is to put an if else, or is it else if? It's else if. Else if. So we also want it to be if the email isn't correct, like it doesn't have like .co.com, something like that, and at symbol. So we will do that by typing in this, which I'll just copy from my other screen, since there is no way that I'm typing in this regex right here for you. There will just be too many errors. All right, so this is what you need to type in, and I will leave this in the comments along with all the other links which you would want to use for this video. So this basically does the validation for the email. And now we need to, of course, pass in the error which we want the user to see if this isn't filled out, or if this isn't a valid email. So let's do, please type, let's do a valid email. So we want the user to type a valid email. All right, so this is really all we need for the validate function. And now we want to move on to the next and final function, which we need to pass in to Formik. So that's on submit, and the on submit, of course, needs to be a function. So let's do const on submit, and let's create it with some props. And I would want to pass in two props. One is the values, which we need to pass in, and the other is something which I'll name myself, and it just needs to be normal parentheses. All right, so the other prop I'll pass in will be submit props. And what this will allow us to do is use some functions or some methods that Formik provides, like the one I will use, which is reset form, which allows us to reset the actual form data that the user sees. So once they've typed in their name and so on, once the form actually submits, we'd want to clear those values, and we do that by passing in this submit props, and then do submit props.reset form, and then the parentheses to use the method. All right, so let's create this. And now let's just type in that method which we've just discussed, and let's go and copy some stuff from Netlify to make our form submit to them. All right, so let's do submit props and dot reset form, like so, and that will do it. All right, so what is this? This is basically that we haven't used them yet. So inside of this Formik tag, let's go down here, and let's, inside the opening and closing of this this tag, let's do type in our functions and array. Sorry, not array, object. So let's start by typing in the object for initial values. Initial values, and it will need to receive it like so. So we say the initial values is equal to initial values. So this is basically what Formik reads, and this is what we'll pass it into what it should read from the initial values. So let's do that. Initial values, and let's under here type in validate, and we'll basically do the same thing for onSubmit as well and validate. So let's do that, and let's do validate and onSubmit. Oh, with curly braces. Let's do onSubmit. All right. So let's see if it's working or giving us an error. Yes, it's working. So it's passing on us these errors if we type anything wrong. So please type your email and please type your name and so on. Let me see. And do we have one right here? Let's actually just make the text a little bit larger. So let's do text LG. Alright, so this helps a bit on reading what's right here. Of course, we'd want this text to be larger than this text and style it better, but for the next video. So okay, this seems to work. Let's refresh and see if the submit button works. So yeah, the submit button won't submit if there is any error in the code. And let's see right here if we type something. So please type a valid email. So now it's not telling us to type something like that. All right, and this is irritating me a little bit that once we type in here, there's actually like no contrast. So let's fix this before we go any further. Let me see. This must be right here. So let's actually just go right here. Let's maybe make this a bit larger as well. So let's go right here and right here. Let's hold down the Alt key and do like so. So let's type in, what should we type in? Text. Oh. And text. We'd make it a color of gray. 900. So basically a black color, like so. It's just not so like just using plain black. Yeah. So this seems to work fine. And now let's go into the Formik link, which I will provide again in the description below. So we'll be going over to this section where it says Formik handling with a stateful React form. So this is a stateful React form since we're using Formik and it handles the state for us. It's still a stateful Formik or stateful React form. So let's copy this first, and this is a function we need to encode the data which we send over to Netlify. So let's copy this. Let's go in here. Let's go above our initial values. I just said array again. I meant to say object. All right. So let's paste this in right here, and we don't need to do anything with this. We need to now go over to this under the handle submit, and we of course already have the onSubmit function, so this will function as the same in our case. So let's only copy this which I've marked right here. We don't need to do prevent default. Formik handles all that sort of stuff for us. So let's do copy and let's paste this in to our onSubmit function. So let's paste it in right here. Now, of course, we have this at the bottom, which we don't want. We want to actually refactor this a little bit. So I'll just copy this because I'll use it later, the alert function. And let's type this in. So what do we want to do? We want to make a function which actually throws an error at us if the response isn't valid. And so this won't really catch the error when it happens and Netlify doesn't receive it. But what I'll type in here would definitely catch the error, hopefully. So let's type this in response. Not like this. Response. I think that's like that. So response, and let's create an error function, and let's do like so. So inside of here, we want to check if the response. So this is of course inside of promise and ES6. So if the response, we want to check if it's not okay. So let's do that by typing this. Hopefully this is easy to read. So if not okay, then we would throw an error. So we do that by simply typing to throw new, and then we type in error like so with capital R, and it's right there. Let's do this, and let's type in response dot status. All right, so that's what we need to pass in right here. Now, before we forget it again, we need to type in return response. So really, I haven't experimented with how this is affected by this, but I've tested it and it should work with catching the error. So maybe you don't need this, maybe you do. I think you do. So now we want to do something else. If the response is okay, which it is if this hasn't gone through. So else, oh, and we can do like type it like this, and then have an else under here. I just need some coffee. Alright. We can also do it like this. Of course, not delete the curly brace, and type else if, and let's type in response dot okay, and then we can type in here what we want to happen if the response is okay. So if the response is okay, I want to alert a success message, as well as pass in this which we typed earlier to clear out the values. I wouldn't want the values to be cleared out if there is an error. Maybe you want that, but again, you can just customize this however you want. All right, so now let's see what we need. We also could pass in another like statement, like let's just type in here. Of course, we need to have curly braces, and let's type in alert. Let's just type in something went wrong. Something went wrong. And let's just leave it at that. So if the response is not okay, then this will be there. If it is, then we will show a success message, and we'll clear out the data, and else if some weird thing happens, then this will show up an alert with something went wrong. And so if there is of course an error, then we will display the error with an alert. So now we need to go into our Formik, not our Formik, our Netlify documentation for implementing this, and we need one more thing. So we need to copy this. This is basically some HTML to help Netlify process this form, and it does that basically by going through the HTML. It can't actually go through JSX, which we have actually created this form in. So we paste this into our index.html in our public folder, and that will help Formik actually do this for us and submit the form. So let's do that by going inside our public and index.html. Let's navigate down here. Let's go under the no script tag in the body section, of course. Let's paste this in. And now my fields are actually the same as this example is right here. I have a name that's equal to name, a name that's equal to email, and one that's equal to message. If you had like 2 message fields, you would want to copy this and paste it down below. And if you had like 2 name fields or 2 text type fields, basically whatever you want to submit, you need to pass it in here. Also, if we want to have like a like recapture, we'd also want a div tag to be right here with the recapture, and then add it into our JSX as well. So everything you need to add to your submit, you need to add it right here. All right. So anyways, mine will just be left at this, and notice the name right here. We'll also be needing to use that. Just keep it at the contact for your first form or something like that. You can of course change it if you want. Just know that you also need to change it up here in the submit, which we have copied. So we have our contact, which is the name, and we also need to copy this to actually put it inside of our JSX. So let's copy that. And this is very important. So where it sits, where it says form, you need to go right under there, and you need to paste this in. And this won't show anywhere other than in the, if you inspect element, in the developers console, of course. So yeah, so just notice the name right here, this one up here, and we have also the contact, which is on the value, which is the same as, which should be the same as the name right here. All right, so now hopefully you haven't created any errors and deleted something like the root or something like that. And we will check if this works right here. So let's go into our into Firefox, or you could just go into Chrome, of course. Let's refresh. Not any errors shown up yet. Let's see. Of course, we still need to make this actually validate before we can continue on submitting it. So remember, this is localhost, so we shouldn't be able to submit it. So if we get a success message, then yeah, I typed in something wrong. So let's type in, let's fill this form out. So I'll just do test. And of course, my name is Adrian. I think I said that earlier. Of course, let's try and see what it does. Yeah, so it says this. And look at this. It will do that since we have created it of type email. So it's just nice to have. So let's do test.com, and let's just say test. Of course, this doesn't matter what you type in any of these fields, as long as you type something in. Alright, so nothing's happening once we click on this button. And now why is that? Let's go over here and let's see why that might be. So this is submitting, and now I created an error, and this is because this is still at this dot state. And we actually have these values which we need to pass in. So not like that. So let's just do the values here instead of this dot state. So still use the spread operator and just do it like so. So now it should hopefully work. Of course, now this is clear since I refreshed the page. So let's just type in some gibberish. And let's do some gibberish again. We of course don't need to fill this out, so it doesn't matter. Let's hopefully then get an error message displayed onto our screen with the alert function. I hope this will work. And it did. So now we got an error message, and so now hopefully this is all done. We can actually just continue working on this design-wise, but it wouldn't be a right video. It wouldn't be a good video if I didn't actually test it. So let's do that by going out of this. Let's actually do something called, let's type in the command called npm run build. To run the build. So npm run build, and to actually build the file so that we can have a folder called build, and we can just drag and drop it into Formik, not into Formik, into Netlify. And we would normally want to use Git, but I'm gonna do that in the next video, and then you could also get the files from GitHub. So if the next video is out, then the links in the description will be to the GitHub page. Otherwise, they'll just be there like tomorrow or the day after. Tomorrow it will be there. So let's do this. All right, so it's using Krakow build, and now let's see if we get a build file. We have a build file right over here. All right, so that's it. Now let's see if this will work. So let's go into Netlify, and this is just the docs, but I just go into Netlify, do login. Okay, I'll go over to my sites. I will open my folder, drag it from the other screen. I will go into my React, my YT form. I will drag, not a drag and drop it. My bad. All right, let's actually do this correct. So let's go into let's get it back right here. All right, so let's actually go inside it, and now let's drag and drop the build. So it will build the form, or build the website for us, and deploy it onto this actual domain name. So let's copy this. I'll go over to my Firefox. Let's just create a new window. Oh, I didn't actually copy it. Let's just do like this and do copy link address. Let's paste it, and let's see if it works. So now hopefully we should get a success message, and our data should be published to Netlify. So let's type in what we want to be displayed. Adrian, let's do, and this is not my real email. I'll just put in test, just so no one actually does send one to this. All right, so let's do it. Let's say it. Let's type this all in capital letters. All right, so this will be very bad if it doesn't work, but we believe in ourselves, and of course it will work. Otherwise, it's not so bad. We'll just go back into the code and we'll debug it. So, oh, capital R. This is going very great. It works, and some exclamation marks. Let's now do the final moment of submitting it. That was anticlimactic. I actually just typed in back on my mouse, which I have macros on, and I'm sorry about that. I just ruined the moment for us, so now I'll just quickly type this in again. I'm sorry about that. Now if this doesn't work, then it's fate, and it should be like that. And this video won't come out because I just don't bother to debug my code. Of course this will come out, of course. Success! It actually works. That's amazing. So now we got a success message, but we coded it and we didn't actually see into our Netlify if it has posted anything. So now hopefully it has posted something. Let's see. So let's see our recent submissions. Let's refresh. Let's scroll down and look at this. It actually works. So we have all of the data which we actually just typed in, and it's showing right here. So you could just leave it at this, and you'll have a form that's working on your site where your clients can contact you and they can do whatever you and you can basically come in contact with them. Of course, we would want to change some stuff, like actually making it prettier, making a success page not just like an alert that comes up to the screen. It looks pretty ugly, and it's something you would have done in like the early 2000s or something like that, where you didn't actually have much design elements into your page. I mean, some had, but it wasn't the standard. So today you want to have like very pretty sites, and you would also want this to maybe be sent out to your email address, so you can easily respond and check your emails from your clients or some people who want to come in contact with you, or maybe just leave it at that and just that's it. But we can also do something else. Let's go into our site again. Let's go navigate to the forms. All right, we are already in there. Let's go here. So you see we have 100 form submissions which we can send out using outgoing notifications. So we add a notification using this. We can just add an email. So down here we'd want to choose the form which we'd want to type in. I won't actually press this right here, but you fill out your email and you press save, and then there you have it. You would have emails going out to your email address from your website which you have just deployed. All right, so that's it. And in the next video we will be going back to this. We will style it and make it look a little better. Not a little better, hopefully much better. We will create a success page. We will be using Git to actually do continuous deployment onto React app, and that's really the best way to do it. Of course, in the industry you would want to use Git and then something else to actually check what you're pushing before it goes out to the actual production website. Like this is, so when we type in the command inside of our Visual Studio with the git command of git add dot and git commit, then at last git push, we will actually push this straight out to the production, which is fine for most cases when you just are a freelancer and creating your own site. But when you're working with a team, you want to have a middle layer, I guess you could say. But so yeah, that's it for today. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can like down there, up there. Maybe give a bit of a like on it, as I've just said. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video where we'll be starting this. So bye bye, and thank you for watching.